Hello, everyone. Welcome to Start Your Dungeons. I'm Adam,
I'm Bryce.
and today we're talking about the Avatar Legends, the role-playing game by Magpie.
Yeah.
So to start us off, what comes in this book?
So this is the core rule book. Full disclosure, I did the Kickstarter for this. So when this first came out, I was really excited for it, and it's powered by the apocalypse. So that's an immediate check, a couple of checks in mind. What's interesting about this book is it's got all the stuff you need to be a player, all the stuff you need to be a DM. But what I really liked about this book was I didn't really know what to expect in terms of where they're going to set this. Obviously, if you're a fan of Avatar,
And Legend of Korra.
yeah, and Legend of Korra, those are two of the five options you can play in, which I thought was really cool. So there's a lot of history and background in this book, which I really like. So if you're very much a person who watched Avatar or watched Legend of Korra and maybe doesn't know the full background of those worlds, they do a really good job of putting that all in this book.
So at least good for like information on the in the world.
It feels like an encyclopedia almost in some ways.
I mean, that's kind of cool
Yeah.
because as a fan of especially Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's you kind of need some background,
Right.
Because there is so much lore.
And I think what's nice too is like the Kyoshi era is one of the eras that you can play in, and a lot of her story has been told in novelizations, and a lot of that stuff is in here as well, which I thought was a smart
really
idea.
great.
So again, we know bits and pieces from obviously the TV show talking about it, but then they went and expanded it, and like I said, that's one of the five eras you can play in is Kyoshi's era, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because you can see these different eras and play different kinds of characters. Especially too, like the one that I really love is there's the war that's happening right before Aang is unfrozen. You can play as. So Uncle Iroh could be a villain in your campaign, which is really
That's
interesting.
really neat.
Yeah.
So what about the quality?
Decent quality. I mean, it's a solid hardcover book. I don't know regular retail price on this, obviously, because I kickstarted it, and I kickstarted this with the Adventure Guys book and everything, and I believe that was like $85. But I want to say this was in stores, maybe is looking for $50 or $60. I think.
Magpie typically does some really good quality books, like good binding, good paper quality.
Like their books, their games, I have different feelings on sometimes.
So it's powered by the apocalypse.
Yep.
So how easy is it to get into this?
I actually think this is the hardest powered by the apocalypse game I've ever looked at.
And I've heard that even about the starter box too.
Yes.
You can pick up the starter box at several retailers. I know
Another Target exclusive.
Target,
originally.
it started out as a Target exclusive, but I've also heard something similar about that.
What I'll say is, it is powered by the apocalypse. You have your normal thing where it's like, here are your different moves. But there's also very in-depth combat, which is not a normal thing in your powered by the apocalypse.
But it makes sense for the theme.
Right. So there is that. There's also a lot of, in my personal opinion, I think as a DM, it's probably not that hard to GM this if you've done Powered by the Apocalypse, but I think if you are a new player and you've never played a Powered, this is a lot compared to something like we talk about Monster of the Week being a very simple system almost to just pick up and play.
So, so what about, like, are there things about this version of Powered by the Apocalypse that you like?
I'll be honest, not that much.
Okay.
I was very excited to get this, and I will just flat out admit, I think there's a lot of meat on this that could have been trimmed.
Okay.
The combat system is, again, really cool in a way. It's all about choosing what position you're in. So if you're pressing attacks, defending, or staying back, so it kind of you're changing zones on where you're and what you're doing, and then those each have different options in them.
And there's several systems that do something like that, like the Genesis system. Does something like that with like near, medium and far ranges, and that can add some strategy to it. And I think if you like that kind of strategic element, and think that maybe Powered by the Apocalypse needs that, then maybe
it fits more of that role. The other thing I really, and I'll be honest, this is probably my biggest problem I have with this system, is I don't like the sort of yin and yang style they have for your character. So there's this whole idea that basically your character is never in perfect balance and harmony with themselves. So it might be that you have one side that's loyal and then another side that's like distrustful. And depending on where you're at, you get bonuses when you behave that way. But I don't like that the book very highly says you need to play the way that you're leaning more. If an opportunity presents to find yourself closer to balance, you can. But it does, if you're in a like distrustful state, try and push you to play that way. And then it wants you to growth and go towards middle and harmonize. But the weird thing is, you're not getting bonuses to either side when you're in perfect harmony. But at the same time, being in perfect harmony grants you like some other bonuses for like how you can play and stuff. I just found it really weird that the system wanted you to almost play it in a way that was like, I want you to play this game and follow the way that your character's supposed to be played, and like really push for that, where I don't think a lot of other role-playing games say like, hey, what's your alignment right now? You play to that outs always. This felt more like it was saying, you're in this alignment, so you need to kind of behave that way. And I might be just, again, you're a player, you're a game master, you can run it however you want. I just didn't like the way it was portrayed in the book itself.
Okay. So this is the core book. Is this everything that you need to play this game?
I would say no. And the reason I say that is there's no really adventures or something. So there's this, which is an expansion, which is Wan Shi Tong's Adventure Guide. And originally this was put out with the Kickstarter and had basically like 5 different compilations in one. So there's this that's available that you can have adventures. You can run your own adventures, and they have options for like the characters that exist in every single setting in the back of this book. But I'd almost recommend this as a thing you need, or is almost required, because I think this will help you really get into the different adventures. And what's also nice is all these adventures span all 5 eras. So that's a really cool thing, where if you're like, hey, I want to play, in a Avatar Roku era, but I don't know a lot about that area, even after reading this book, I wouldn't know necessarily what adventure would look like. That's in here. And I kind of like that as a thing, which is really cool. The only other thing I'll say that I like is I do like that there is non-bending options for characters.
Good.
So you don't have to play a bender.
Right. Because, I mean, it's kind of like with going back to a Genesis system. Sometimes in the Star Wars game, like the Jedi or people who are Force sensitive are the least interesting characters in the game. And I think here sometimes the non-benders are very interesting, because you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and not being able to have those powers that are so amazing.
And the 2 they give you are technology, which I think is really cool, and then weapons. And so that's kind of its different style. And I think the way it does bending in this game is really cool. They do a really good job of just kind of making it feel like you have these powers, because again, like, you watch this show and people are like waterbenders are literally pulling the sea and like moving it and like swapping you with a whip, and then doing it. It lets you do that, which I think is really impressive actually of a system to do, because I mean, how many times, if you've loved Avatar and not the system not existed, gone online and looked at a system that could work it, or what I always had people say was, I'll just play a Monk of 4 Elements from the 5e book, but that costs key points and there's only so many times you can do it, whereas in Avatar, as long as there's water, waterbenders can waterbend, right? So it's
a part of who they are.
So I think it does a really good job actually of that. So I will give it props for that. Bending in this game was very well thought out.
Good. So who is this book for? Is this for new players? Is this for seasoned players? You kind of already touched on it.
Yeah, I think if you're a new player to Powered by the Apocalypse, this is not the game I would learn Powered by the Apocalypse games with. They're all different. That's kind of the problem with Powered by the Apocalypse. There is a core that it's built around, but this one really is probably, at least in my opinion, out of all the ones I've played, the most complex of them all. I think if you're an experienced player, you definitely can play this. I do think also, though, if you're an Avatar fan and you want to play this, this is a really good one. Or even if you just want to, like, kind of encyclopedia of the world, there's also a really good book for that. So I would say newer players, I wouldn't probably run this. I've been asked to run this before when I used to do a lot more games at Level Up, and I always told people I'd be interested, but it was lower on my list because they had played other Apocalypse systems and loved them, and I said, I don't know if this one, if you're looking for something as simple as like Monster of the Week, this is not going to fill that. Right. This is going to take a little more crunch to it, which is weird almost to say in a Powered by the Apocalypse game, when you don't see that as much.
Now, there's a third option here. So there's the starter box set that you can get. There's this core box set, or the core book. There's also a quick start book that they did for Free RPG Day. And if you can find that, maybe try that first.
Probably on drive-thru.
Yeah, like if you can find it on, I don't remember where it is digitally. Yeah. But maybe look through that to get a feel of whether or not you want to tackle this version of Powered by the Apocalypse before you try it. So we get to, like, would you try this as a player? You know, would you want to play this, or would you want to run it?
I'll be honest with you, I would much prefer to play this. I feel like, and again, it's just because who doesn't want to do bending and like cool stuff like that? You know, of course. I think I could DM it. You know, having this makes me feel like I could DM it. If I had just this, I would not feel as comfortable. I think this makes me feel a little bit more comfortable to say, hey, let me run you through an adventure and not need it to be as build my own with a system that I'm already going, this is a lot more crunch than I'm used to for a system I'm very familiar with. What about you? Does this interest you at all in any ways?
I want to play in this world.
Right.
But I don't know if I want to play that system.
That's fair.
Because I feel like, for me, it makes more sense to take the lore and all the fluff and all that stuff and just use the Genesis system.
Yeah, I'd argue the Genesis system is actually, in my opinion, I think that would actually be a really good source book for them. They would do a really good job with that.
Because there's already because the system of, you know, magic and, you know, all the powers and everything are so flexible already. I feel like that might be a good fit for it, from what I know about this. But, you know, I think I would like to play it. I don't know about running it.
Yeah, I think I could probably run it once for us and give it a shot. But, like, you know, normally we try and play all the games that we review on here, but, like, this one, like, so excited to get it. Got the Kickstarter. I mean, I got the dice, got everything, and literally I read it all the way through, and then I just put it back on the shelf kind of thing.
So that brings us to the last one. Are you happy you bought the product?
I don't know with this one. Honestly, like, I love the Avatar world. I think it's a really cool world. I don't know if I'm dying to... I'll say this. I got a good deal on the Kickstarter, so I think I'm okay that I bought this. I think if I had bought just this core rulebook in a store for $60 and didn't get also this and all the other stuff, probably would not have liked that purchase as much. So, not upset I bought it, but maybe a little more disappointed in what I thought it would be.
The presentation.
Yeah, the presentation was not, in the long run, what I hoped it would be.
All right. Well, if you have any thoughts, questions, opinions, if you've run it or if you've played it and you want to tell us what you think, place those comments in the box down below.
I'd actually like people, if you played the starter set and started with that,
or the quick start.
Let us know what that did for you, because I do think the starter set is not terribly expensive.
Right. I think it was like $25.
Yeah, so it's not a bad buy-in, and it comes with a decent amount of stuff. So, like, if that helped you make this decision, let us know on that, too, because, again, because I own this, I never looked at the starter box.
I have the quick start. I have the hard copy of the quick start, and I've not run it. I've read it, and it, you know, it has a pretty nice presentation, but also it doesn't really come off in the complete package. So yeah, if you have you know, thoughts and opinions about either the quick start or the starter box or the core book, really let us know what you think, because maybe you've got a perspective that we don't have.
And I'd love it, because honestly, it maybe help us run it, and then maybe we'll enjoy it more. So.
Yeah. So until next time, take care.
Bye.